Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of Business Breakthroughs. I'm your co-host, Chris Angel, here with your hosts, Andrew Honigsfeld and Michael Millay. Hello, gentlemen.
How you doing?
Good. I'm doing great. Thank you. How are you doing?
It's a beautiful day.
Are you truly paying attention? That's what I want to know. Are you paying attention right now?
What? Sorry. Oh, yes.
Squirrel?
No, I swear.
Squirrel? Yeah, well, that's the name of our episode. Are you truly paying attention? So I'm curious, from the work that you guys do, what does this mean? Where does this come from? Why are we talking about this?
Well,
of course we're paying attention.
Yeah, well, I think that's exactly how everybody answers it. Of course we're paying attention.
Of course.
And I generally find that whenever somebody says, of course I'm paying attention, what that really means is I'm not paying attention at all. Or my favorite is it's like, I can mimic back everything you said, but I didn't absorb or think about it at all.
Yeah.
And
well,
and as far as like you as a business owner, there's so many things you're paying attention to.
Right. And I think that's when we answer it. That's when we say, well, yes, I'm paying attention because we have the list of all the things we're paying attention to, of course.
Exactly.
Right.
So when you're trying to pay attention to everything, are you really paying attention to anything?
My favorite way to determine this is to ask people, what did you do yesterday?
Dude, I don't know what I did this morning. It's only 11 right now. I forgot what I did this morning.
And so then you get whatever answer you get.
Yeah.
And then I like to ask the really super secret question that no one would have ever thought to ask clearly. Yeah. How much time did you spend doing each of those things? And people are like, yeah,
that's painful. That cuts deep, Michael. That cuts deep. Stop it.
Well, but that's actually the point, though, is like it does point to how much time you're spending doing things
that we don't know about.
We use it as really when we start working with clients, this is the foundational, like basic number one thing that you absolutely must master in order for our coaching to be effective. And so many people step over this or say, oh, you need to develop this as we go or something like that. And that's why we start off with our daily calls with our new clients, because how do we train someone to pay attention if we're not like, so did you pay attention yesterday? And they're like, and then usually by Wednesday or Thursday, they're like, oh, so I noticed I spent 4 hours on Facebook and then 4 hours on emails and I spent 1 hour reaching out to new clients.
Right.
And okay.
Here's what's coming up for me. Like I'm getting super confronted right now with the conversation. And what I'm left with is like, I think maybe I'm the exception, but I would think people listening to this conversation could think to themselves, man, I'm really scared to hire these guys to coach me because I don't want to look at all of this. And yet there is something that I want, right? Like there is something that I want which is ultimately what has people hire coaches in the first place. But what do you say to people who listening to this are confronted by like all these things these patterns we have in life that we just are sort of unconscious to?
Ooh, pick me.
I think first of all, I will pick you in a second, Michael. I think first of all, nothing that we're doing, we're not talking about this. We are not interested in making you wrong for anything you're doing. Like, great. You spent 10 of your 12 working hours on Facebook. I think I know why you're working 12 hours a day. I'm not mad at you. You're not a terrible human being. There's nothing wrong. There's just, hey, well, I have an easy solution for you to work 11 hours a day. Only be on Facebook for 9 hours. Problem solved. Like it's while this is scary because you're going to have to look at things that you've generally avoided.
Right.
The freedom that comes from this is it's huge.
It's what we got in the business for.
Exactly. Well, and you want to hire somebody to help you out, but if you have no idea what tasks are actually taking your time, you can hire an assistant and they might take 1 hour off your plate because you just weren't aware of what you needed to actually get removed. And then you're looking at the assistant and it's a bad hire and you're like, God, this assistant isn't working out. The assistant might be just fine. The business structure might be just fine. Everything could be just fine. But if you don't know where your time is being spent, you can't separate yourself from the business and become a business owner. You're stuck being the technician.
So another way that I really like answering this, when you talked about getting confronted by this whole conversation, is just with one simple word: good. And
what do you mean?
That means, so like when you get confronted by something, that just means that there's something to uncover for you to work on.
Yeah.
And until you're willing to look at those places that you resist, like, yeah, you can have a coach who totally pats you on the back, gives you the gold star, and you love and are never confronted by. But right. When do you grow?
Right.
And part of it is like, look, you can hate me, you can be mad at me, you can yell at me. I really don't care. Like, trust me, Andrew could verify this. I really don't care.
I've tried all the above. It doesn't work.
Yeah. And really it's like, okay, but how's this affecting your life? Mm-hmm. And it has nothing to do with, I don't have to live your life. So at some level, I don't actually care whether it's 9 or 10 hours on Facebook.
Right.
What I do care about, though, is you saying you want something different. Mm-hmm. And I'm never going to be able to convince you to have the willpower or have the whatever to do something different. You have to discover that for yourself. The only way you can actually discover something new is if you're able to pay attention and see where you're at.
I really feel like this is the issue that stops people, right? Like it's not you don't have the right hiring system. That's secondary.
Right.
That is a piece of it, right? Like you need a process. Systems are good, of course, but it's secondary to you choosing what you actually want and being open to the work it takes to have it.
Exactly. This is why this is our foundational piece. I mean, this is like the one, if you will, this is the
cornerstone.
First, was that
cornerstone in the foundation?
Well, it's also the first barrier to having what you want. Working on everything else doesn't matter if you don't do this. So we don't get into all of the other things until we've gotten you clear on paying attention. And what's interesting, I was thinking about it too, is like when Michael said you have to live your life. Here's the best part. You go to work, you work 12 hours, 10 of them are on Facebook, right? And then you go home and your family's like, well, you're not really present. And you're like, well, maybe it's just because I had a long day. But really, it could be because you get home and you spend your hours at home watching TV or doing something else. But if you're not paying attention, when you pay attention in one place, you start to pay attention in other places, is the way I'll say it. And suddenly your home life gets better. Your friend life gets better because you actually are aware of what you're doing. It's no longer
running unconsciously.
Yeah. You know, you go, you hang out with your family, you know, you go back home or whatever it is, right?
Right.
And you can actually choose how much of your time to give them.
Yep.
You can be aware of what you're doing. So if you're not giving them the time in that moment, you're not like, wow, I don't know why you don't feel like it. You're like, yeah, I need to pull away for a second. I'll come right back. That's okay.
I feel like there's like differing levels of awakeness. Is that, maybe say it that way? Like
works for me.
Oh, we're woke AF. No.
some people are completely they're just not tuned in. They're not conscious of the numbing patterns. Like they might be on Facebook. Let's use since this is the example we're using, they're on Facebook for 10 out of 12 hours in work. That behavior is coming from something. And and if they actually looked at it for a minute, what's under the surface of that is there is a numbing or a medicating behavior because of something. Either you don't want to do what you think you have to do, like lead generation. Most people spend a ton of hours dodging lead generation because they think they have to make cold calls, and that's not the only way to generate leads, right? Absolutely. But the point is they're going to go, oh, I was on Facebook doing social networking when in reality you are medicating to not have to do the things you think you're supposed to do.
Right.
Or it could be some other medication about other life circumstances, and Facebook's you're out.
Yeah, and I think we chose Facebook because we chose this example, right? Because I actually want to be clear.
Relate.
It's something that you know what most people probably do, or what I've seen a lot of people do, is they'll have something up in the background, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, just email. It doesn't matter what it is. They have something up in the background on the other screen.
Yep.
And even though they're not technically focused on that screen, they're also really not focused on their screen either. So they're like, it's always there. And it's like, yeah, you know, I started to type the email and then I saw something funny and I was like, oh my God, got to share this. This is so great. Ha ha. This is hilarious. Other people need to see this. Yeah. What was the email I was typing? Okay, great. So yeah, you know, I just like 3 more sentences and I think I'm gone. Is that a kitty? Oh my God. And that is how it works. So it's not so blatant like you're just on it, but there are a lot of things that we have in the background that just distract us.
And like even taking it to a further example, because like 10 hours on Facebook will actually create it as like a realistic day.
Yeah.
Most likely what it looks like for a business owner, especially when they're starting off or midway into their business, is they wake up, are super stressed out, check their emails for 2 or 3 hours because they need to respond to everyone. And then they need to take a 30-minute coffee break because, dear God, what have they just done to themselves? And then they need to go handle what's actually going on in their business after they've responded to all the emails. And then they hop on Facebook for an hour before they have to start lead generation or do anything else. And then about a half hour into their lead generation time, they get a call from their mom, aunt, whoever that they have to take that ends up being an hour. And then they spend another 10 minutes checking something on Facebook or an email, then another half hour responding to email. And then they're like, oh, well, I would only have a half hour left of my lead generation time. So whatever, I'm just not going to get to it because it's too much to get back into that zone. And then go on Facebook for another hour.
And the one thing that happens right here when they say, oh, well, I'm just not going to get back to it. It's just one day. If you're actually paying attention, it's not just one day.
Yeah, it's the same.
This is just today. Yesterday, you didn't do it either. The day before, you didn't do it either. There's always something that pops up. And that's a big portion of the pay attention piece that we speak
also,
to. Like you see these patterns and it's like, hey, so clearly lead generation isn't your thing. What do you have it mean? And then we can get into and actually solve your headspace around lead generation so that you can do it with freedom and also, not with this.
Also, if you notice, how much time did I say that you were using email in that example?
I wasn't paying attention.
Exactly. But like, think about how often you go throughout your day and how many hours a day do you spend on your email? Responding to emails.
Not much on my end.
Yeah.
But I don't have time, but I don't have time for email.
Well, but point is there's those things that you do that you spend time on.
But I have time for Facebook.
Point is,
and his posts are great for the record. Not that I'm on Facebook or anything, but they're fantastic.
But I guess more what the point is like inside that example day, it was 3.5 hours on email.
Yep.
Which was all perfectly justified because it needed to be answered and stuff needed to be handled. And it was necessary.
Right.
It was necessary for me to do that. And like, I say it like that because yes, 3.5 hours worth of emails were needing to be responded to or sent or whatever. But until I noticed, oh, I'm spending over half my workday just responding and communicating with people when I could pay someone $5 an hour to respond to emails to people.
Probably wouldn't pay them $5 an hour. There's a federal minimum wage issue here, but you know.
Well, if you do a VA, like
I'm kidding.
You would want to probably do a virtual assistant at some level and outsource that to another country and have the person just handle it for you, you know, and just send you like the 5 emails that are actually important for you because they actually require a real customized response, you know?
Yep. We're foreshadowing the next episode because there is a thing like, I can't have a VA respond to these industry specific emails and I need another one of me. Like, and we don't need to go there yet, but it's like, but there is a thing of like, we work ourselves into a corner because we think only I can do that work. Nobody knows how to respond to this email like I would respond to this email.
Yeah.
But this keeps us in the vicious cycle, I think, of right. It's a mindset thing. You got to shift your mindset out from there if you ever hope to get free from.
Right.
So when you think the last time Warren Buffett or Richard Branson said, you know what, no one else can respond to this email as well as I can, so I'm going to respond to the email myself and not let anyone else see it.
Right. Yeah. Right.
I mean, that's the reality of it.
Yeah. I feel like the challenge, like, is so good, you guys, because this is the people who come work with you are people that are successful. Like, in order to afford you, they've got to be successful. Right. But I feel like those that are, they're in the beginning stages of hiring. They're working with you for their first hire, their second, third hire.
Yep.
They've built their success on talent, hustle, and grind. So it's been all about like, they're not paying attention, and they might be on Facebook for hours and 3 hours of email, but in between all that, they're just trying to do what they can to shake and move to make stuff happen. Right.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why
and the big thing is
imagine 2xing their business, not 10xing their business.
Oh yeah. That's good.
Yeah. Well, and I was just going to say, like, the big thing with Michael's example, right, is if you saw what he talked about is almost the entire day they were working.
Mm-hmm.
But by not realizing that 3.5 hours of that day goes to email, you can't hire somebody. Like in his own example that he gave, Chris, like, you weren't even aware that he said 3.5 hours.
Right. Yeah.
And if you can't tell that 3.5 hours of your day goes to email, you can't hire somebody, a virtual assistant, a regular assistant, however it may be, to answer those or handle those, because in your mind, that's super important and I must do it. But, you know, and it does start to foreshadow the next episode, which is great. But it's like, you know, it doesn't have to be you.
Right.
It's not all about you. There's a certain skill set required, yes. But look, if there's 4 emails that need to be handled by you and all the other ones can be handled in a generalized way, then you cut down on 3. Let's just say it takes half an hour to write 4 emails. You cut down on 3 hours of work. Suddenly, you can either use that time somewhere else, or you can have 3 hours less of work that day, however you choose to do it. But now you're starting to get to play with your schedule, which is what we're interested in.
Yeah. I would like to do a future episode on, we don't have time for it now, but I definitely think there is an addiction to busyness. Or there is identity found in busyness where we attach our worth or our identity to how much we work, not how smart we work, right? So we'll fill our...
This is like my favorite topic. like one of my top 5 favorite things to talk to people about.
Yeah. But yes, I love that. So we will definitely do it, because I feel like that's one of the things that we're up against when we are working with successful entrepreneurs is that they've created success because of hustle and work ethic, right? And to let somebody else step in on that and take some of that off your plate would mean that you're not as valuable as you used to be if somebody's doing what you can do.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, totally. And it actually, there's a few things that speaks to. So I definitely want to do an episode.
Okay, we'll do another. I know. I just opened Pandora's box.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like, there's a rabbit hole we're about to dive into that is not, we don't have time for.
3 hours? 5 hours?
It's a marathon podcast episode. Yeah. Well, listen, guys. Let's wrap this, because I think we can end with some wisdom here. But I feel like what I'm learning about you guys is there's always so much more under the surface of the episode name, right? Like, are you truly paying attention? Is like just scratching like the surface of what really you, the entrepreneur listening to this,
Just
need to
right
think
there.
about. Yeah. Like all the things that you need to think about in terms of like, even down to like, are you subconsciously medicating so that you don't have to do certain things in life? And that's why you're not paying attention. Can you not even be present with your family because you don't even know you're medicating? Like there's just a lot to it. So
yeah,
I feel like the next best place to send people is to just go have a conversation. Don't try to go on a mountaintop and sit cross-legged for hours or days and try to get the answer. Just go talk to these guys because you guys are masterful at getting there.
That could also be a form of self-medication, for the record.
Oh, yeah.
Check
Okay, listen, you guys keep cutting deep. That's like, stop it. I love my journey.
Also, mountaintops have not as much food, and having fallen off one or two, I can tell you it's not fun.
Yeah, right. So let's do this. So first of all, if people want to connect with you for this conversation, like where can they go?
Go to myperfecthire.com. And then it'll register our website. You'll scroll down. There's a contact us section, and just put in your email, send us an email, and we'll get back to you.
Perfect. Leave me with a piece of wisdom. Like, so like, are you truly paying attention? What's available for me when I start paying attention?
I mean, your life. It's how good do you want to have it is directly related to how much you're paying attention to what you're doing.
Wow.
My little nugget is going to be, you can't shift, change, or transform or do anything with an area of life that you're not able to pay attention to, or you're not able to see or notice.
Wow. It's like a double mic drop. It's good. All right, guys, just go back and listen to the last 20 seconds of this podcast over and over and over again. It's so good. All right, guys.
Drop in stereo.
Mic drop. Yeah. All right, gang, listen, go to myperfecthire.com to connect with Andrew and Michael so that you can get access to life. Like, I think we get into business for what we see as possible in life, not to be a prisoner of our success. Go start living your life and have a conversation with these guys. Go to myperfecthire.com.
Day for life.
Day for life. Thanks, guys. We'll catch you in the next episode.
See you then.